Oh, bless you. You ready?
Excuse me, I'm ready.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the June meeting of the Fayette County Board of Adjustments. Looks like we're up to full strength here on the board members. I'd ask anyone with a cell phone to please either turn it off or turn it to silent mode. And anyone that anticipates testifying today, I'm now going to administer the group swear. So those of you that are going to testify, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give to here today will be the truth? All right, thank you all. Now there are minutes from our May 29th, 2009 meeting that I ask that everyone's reviewed, and if they have reviewed, are there any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of Mr. Stumbo's motion to approve the May 2009 minutes of the Board of Adjustments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Now we'll ask if there are any of the four cases that any of the applicants wish to postpone or withdraw. Okay, then we'll quickly run through the agenda. First case is, well, let's see, that's a revocation hearing, so we don't have to ask. The 2009-34 Natalie Hanshoe, is the applicant present? Okay. Are there any objectors here for that case? Okay. Let's see. The next case is 2009-32 Liberty Worship Center. Applicant here. Okay. Excuse me. Are there any objectors here for that case? This is a continuation from last month's meeting, I believe. Okay. The final case on the agenda is A 2009-35 Garrett LLC. Is the applicant present? Okay, so the applicant's not present. Are there any objectors here for that case? Okay. Put a big question mark. All right. Is anyone here that did not hear their case called? All right. So we'll go back to C 2005-53 Fender Funeral Directors. My understanding there may be an agreement that's been reached between folks concerned.
I'll let Mr. Murphy go first.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm Dick Murphy representing Fender Funeral Directors, and in the last 2 months, Sarah Tuttle, who's with us at Strand Associates, and Mr. Fender have been working with the city to come up with a plan that the administrators could approve, and I think we have reached an agreement on that, and that's a plan which will govern what he has on the ground now, and if he does expand in the future, he'd go by the plan that was previously approved. We've gotten a plan that has a two-way entrance on Russell Cave Road, has 90-degree parking as Mr. Gallimore had requested. We're doing all required landscaping. You required Ms. Tuttle to get with Mr. Brock regarding stormwater, and they have done that, and I think reached an agreement as well on that. And Mr. Hume wanted to see a contract for paving, which I presented to him this morning. I do have copies of these if you want them handed out, but I'm giving the brief version here that the paving is under contract, can be started within 2 weeks and completed within 2 days on that. So that's my brief synopsis of where we are. I think we're all in agreement on that.
Well, the only one that I think you didn't touch on was number 7, the outdoor lighting installation.
Well, there's no additional outdoor lighting planned at this point, but what we'd agreed to that if there is any in the future, it would be the shoebox type where the bulb is shielded from viewers to the side on that.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr. Hume, Mr. Gallimore, Mr. Brock, are you all okay with that?
I am. I just asked for, us to continue this for 30 days, and that way we can come back and verify that it's finished and in compliance.
Okay. Are we having technical difficulties?
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that.
All right. Now, Mr. Hume, will the work be, do you expect it to be completed within the next 30 days?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Jim.
there were quite a few issues with the plan that was proposed last month, and I worked with Ms. Tuttle on that on behalf of her client, and she's addressed all of those issues. So the only thing really left is for them, before they actually start work, is to be reminded that they still have to get a building permit for this paving, and maybe a few cleanup items at that time.
Mr. Brock?
Yes, we've received the information that was requested by our division, and they would just need to get a grading permit prior to commencing work.
All right, well, it looks like we've got it worked out. Wish I could take some credit for it, but I cannot. Good work, fellas. So when do you want to continue this until our July meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
That's agreeable to us.
Okay, all right. Well, any questions or discussion for Mr. Murphy, for the staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
All right. Is there a second? Second. All right, thank you, Ms. Meyer. All those in favor of Mr. Stout's motion to continue the C 2005-53 Fender Funeral Director's case until our July meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. See you in July, Mr. Murphy.
Okay, thank you.
Next case is C 2009-34, Natalie Hanshu.
Hi, I'm Natalie Henshaw.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Excuse me. The staff has recommended approval of your request, subject to 2 conditions. Have you reviewed those conditions?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree to abide by those?
On condition number 1, it says that my business would be open Monday through Friday from 5 to 9. The majority of my business would be during those hours, but I do need to be open during other regular business hours. And the reason that I had stressed between 5 and 9 is that would be when there would be possible overlap of parking and the other businesses are closed.
Okay.
My business is appointment only, so during the day I don't need any overlap.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Marks?
We discussed that among the staff this morning, and that's acceptable as a change. So-
Okay. So do you have a suggested time different from the 5 to 9 on the weekdays?
I'm appointment only. I probably just regular business hours between 8 a.m. and 9, but it would vary.
No, it's right now it's just in the afternoon from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And she's saying she wants it from 8 a.m. to 9. Okay. So, Mr. Marks, are you comfortable?
So that would be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
I believe that's what she said. Okay, and you're comfortable with that? Anyone else have any objections or questions?
Will there be sufficient parking?
Yes, we've already gone over that. I only have appointments of 1 to 3 people at a time, and there are 4 parking spaces designated to me, and there's 41 for the whole facility. During the day, I mostly would be doing one-on-one consultations where I need to do health assessments and that type of thing. So I won't have as much traffic during the day.
It's very small class sizes, and the minimum parking requirement based on those sizes is actually very comparable to what would be required if it was a different use, but comparable to the other uses in that small commercial area.
So you're okay with the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., Mr. Marks? Okay. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that item C 2009-34, Natalie Hanshew, appeals for a conditional use permit to establish an indoor recreational facility in one suite of an existing building in a light industrial zone on property located at 2551 Regency Road be approved with the conditions as set forth by the staff, with the amendment of the operating hours Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stonewall and Mr. Stout. All those in favor of Mr. Stonewall's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our next case is A 2009-32, Liberty Worship Center. It's a continuation from a previous hearing. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, I'm Glenn Ashcraft.
Mr. Ashcraft, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, now the staff has recommended approval subject to 4 conditions. Have you reviewed those conditions?
Yes, I have, and we will abide by those conditions.
Okay, so you're okay with all of them. Any questions or discussion? All right. If not, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that A-2009-32 Liberty Workshop Center appeals for administrative review to allow a 200 square foot sign to be placed in an existing 50-foot tall support structure in a professional office zone. That's what we are?
Yes, sir.
In a P1 zone on property located at 1975 Haggard Court, Council District 2, be approved as recommended by the staff and subject to the 4 conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Stout.
Now, we just want to be clear that the recommendation is not for the same size as what was applied for.
Right, it's down to 96 from the original 200.
Correct.
Yeah. So that should be 96 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, and that's in the first condition.
Yeah. You might add in that with that 200 square foot sign being 200 square foot being replaced by 96. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I suppose if we were being real specific, it would be on a single upright and the other upright would be removed.
Yes, that's
Correct?
correct.
And
Thank you.
And that's also in condition 1.
That's in one condition, I think.
All right, let's see, Mr. Stout has made a motion. Do I have a second? All right, thank you, Mr. Griggs. All right. All those in favor of Mr. Stout's motion of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. 6, 2, 1. All right, motion passes. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Our final case today is A 2009-35, Garrett LLC.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with the contact for the applicant just a few minutes ago. He had received the agenda and the staff report and did not realize that that was a recommendation rather than a final decision. My understanding from our conversation was he was en route to the meeting and thought he could be here in about 15 minutes, which I think is within the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
You may want to take maybe a brief recess and allow him time. But my impression was he was headed here for the meeting.
Oh, I knew something would come up to hamper our land speed record here. All right, well, we'll stand in recess until, say, 1:25. All right. Thank you, Mr. Salih.
Thank you.
They need to have it. choose, proceed with a hearing today. And so I'm wondering what the pleasure of the board members are. Is it to go ahead and have a brief hearing and hope that the applicant shows up, or would you like to postpone it until the July meeting?
I think what I'd like to hear is the rationale relative to from the staff as to why this request is being disapproved.
All right, I'm fine with that. Let's have a brief hearing then. And after the hearing, or after we hear the staff's presentation, we'll decide what action we'd like to take.
Lights out question.
I'm just going to generally describe the site plan, then go on to some photos. This appeal is a request to not have to install a 6-foot-tall solid wall or fence around a proposed outdoor storage and work area. The subject property includes 2 lots. They're in an I-1 zone. The front lot, right up in here, is Fronts on Lyle Industrial. It has an existing warehouse building. This property is kind of undergoing a refurbishment right now. A lot of work's going on there. The outdoor storage area that's proposed is back in here. For several reasons, they don't feel that putting that 6-foot-tall fence or wall would be beneficial. They've contacted the property owner here, and they really aren't concerned, according to the applicant, about surrounding that storage area with a wall or fence. In the applicant's application, they state that the higher elevation here would result in this having the very limited benefit of a wall or a fence blocking any type of view because of the higher elevation here. They point out that there's trees back in here that would block the view, and also that this adjoining property right in here is a wastewater treatment plant. So those are kind of the justifications the applicant provided. Let's move on to some of the pictures now.
Excuse me, Mr. Marks. Yeah. Sir, you just came in. Are you a representative of Garrett LLC?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, we went ahead and commenced the hearing. If you'd like to come forward so you can see the photos better, please do.
This is a view from the cemetery that borders a portion of the south side of the property. This is the warehouse building on the front lot. The next slide will show the rear portion of the property that's actually mostly a second lot. And this is the area generally where the proposed storage area is. Next, here, sorry, you can see this is the cemetery property here. So there's clearly a direct view into the rear area from the cemetery, even though it is as a slightly higher elevation. So this is a kind of a view looking back across the proposed storage area here, back towards the warehouse building. This is actually from the north side or back side of one of the laboratory or office buildings at the wastewater treatment plant. Next slide will show, looking from that wastewater treatment plant border back towards the northwest, showing some of the existing trees that they suggest will provide a buffer. I think that might have been, yeah, that was the last one. Got one more overhead here, and then I'll wrap it up. One of our major concerns with this is that things change over time, and you just can't predict what kind of changes would happen to where some of these issues that don't appear to be major right now might in the future be more of a concern. Also want to point out that the way the ordinance is written, it really doesn't give the latitude of doing some sort of a complicated assessment of, impact or to what extent neighboring properties are concerned or not concerned, that type of thing. It's pretty much an absolute requirement. But anyway, just as an example of some of the things that can come up, this is that rear lot where they want to have the storage and work area here. This is, just to give some reference, this is the Kroger off Leestown Road up here. We just received a zone change request for this property back in here, requesting to change that from I-1 to a residential use. So if that zone change gets approved, this entire area back in here will be converted to a high-density residential use. So now, to what extent those trees back in here will block the view from that property, well, that's kind of uncertain, and there's uncertainty about how long those trees, will be there. So I think that's our major concern, is things change over time. If we don't put that 6-foot wall or fence in now, in the future, it's going to be real difficult to kind of make a judgment about, well, when does it need to be going in, that kind of thing. So I think we actually had 3 findings for disapproval that you can look at your staff report.
Any questions for Mr. Marks?
I have a question, but not until after I hear this young man.
All right. All right, sir, would you like to come to the podium, please? And would you state your name, please?
I'm Corey Heights. I'm a member of Garrett LLC with my father, Michael Heights.
Corey Heights?
Heights, H-E-I-T-Z.
Thank you.
I'd like to apologize to everyone for being late today. I thought the letter in the mail meant that it was disapproved ahead of time, so I apologize.
We're going to give you a fair shot.
Thank you.
Try to.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Heights, you've received and I presume reviewed the staff report.
Yes, sir.
They're recommending disapproval, and it doesn't look, but when I read the ordinance that's in our staff report, it doesn't really look like we have the option to grant what you're requesting, but we want to hear from you anyhow, since
Sure.
since you did make the request.
Is there a chance we can go back to some of the pictures real quick? Can you go to the one from the city property looking down onto the back area? Yes, sir. That's actually from the cemetery. You just passed it. Okay, one more past that. Okay. If you look right there, this is one of our concerns we'd like to hear y'all's opinion on.
Mr. Heights, I think they have a laser pointer that you can borrow.
That'd be excellent.
I have to show it on, that one, so we can see it.
This is being taken right now from your all's wastewater treatment plant, and as you see, the fence is right there, and that's where we'd be putting the screen in. Well, even with the screen in right there, you're still going to be able to see the activities going on in there. So that's one concern, or one reason we feel we don't need it on that side. The other area right here is the front. Will be a fence. You're asking to put a fence in front of the yard back here. And this fence right here, if we put that up, the view from the street, from Lyle Industrial Road, you cannot see that fence from that road. So I understand your guys' logic about Wayne Supply here, if someone else moved in, putting it up there, the screen. But the back part where there's vegetation that's been there over 100 years, this part here, we're still going to see it. And then the front part there, it's not even visible by the street. That's where we kind of have concerns and would like just, a better judgment on that versus following strictly by the rules on this one, and see if we can make an adjustment just for those reasons right there.
All right. Now, thank you, sir. Mr. Hume, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, we'd like to stick to the ordinance and not try to set a precedent for this.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Heights?
Well, I think that most of the vegetation you're suggesting could shield a part of the property. It's deciduous, so it would only be leafed out in the summertime. So that negates the trees, I think, from being much service.
It's pretty thick back there, though.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm worried about the precedent setting also. Since it's not a peculiar piece of property, there's not a lot of special conditions.
Sure. And is this an instance where we can not put it up until something happens? Does it work that way? Like if those trees got cleared, then put up a fence? Or if someone new moved into this side property, then put up a fence?
I would think you wouldn't have to do any of the fencing until you start using it for storage or work.
Yeah, well, it's going to be used for work. That's the thing. So.
What kind of activities are you going to have back there?
We have a leaser that's moving in, Wise Recycling, and they're going to be it's going to be a scrap storage yard back there.
Yeah, it'd be pretty unsightly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for you fencing it and shielding it all the way around.
Even the front area that's not going to be visible from Lyle Industrial Road?
I'd just like to see you follow the ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Stout, did you have a question?
I guess my question was going to be to the staff. You had mentioned that part of a lot behind there had been, evidently they are seeking to have it rezoned back there. Am I concerned?
That's right.
That? What would be the problem? And I'm not saying I'm in favor or not in favor, but what would be the problem of sticking to the 6-foot fence along that line and granting them relief on that front side.
I guess we just have to think of a mechanism to do that, since I don't...
And I do understand the probability of setting a precedence, but we have said on this board before that we judge each case by one and not by those that to follow. And it's not that I'm going to be supporting of this young man, it's just that I just like to know why that could not be adjusted for that purpose. I would see no reason why it couldn't be, but I'm not speaking against Jim or his thoughts on it. I think it needs to be fenced, but along that front row right there, why would it have to be, meet that requirement?
Yeah, well, if we can go back one slide. No, other way. I guess this is kind of an example of, depending on where exactly you're standing in the cemetery, you're going to get a view of that storage area, an additional open view if that front section of the fence isn't there. You can still, it's not just an issue of visibility from the road, it's also partly visibility from the cemetery.
Yeah, but who's going to be looking at it from the cemetery?
Well, that's...
nobody in there, that's for sure. Now, once that cemetery is used, there'll probably be visibility for folks that are in there, but I don't think they're going to be too concerned about thinking what's over on the other side of the fence relative to what's going in the ground right there. Now, like I'm saying, I'm not opposed to what Jim is saying. I'm just asking if that is a possibility to accommodate here on the front side. If it isn't, then we have to live with it, but that's why I'm just asking the question.
Mr. Stout, this is also 2 lots, so if the you'd want some separation from those 2 lots and 2 different occupants in the event that they would change down the road. So I would ask that you would get that screening between this lot and the front lot that could change in occupancy.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Now, can I ask a question real quick to the board? Weren't the letters sent out to, we've talked to Wayne Supply on our one side, and we've talked to the cemetery on each side, and they do not have a problem with this. And we sent out the letters to our neighbors, and it stated, if you do have a problem, come forward and speak a grievance with that. And since they're not coming forward, doesn't that mean they kind of agree with us on that? In our decision, or does that not matter so much what they think? It's more what the zoning, the ordinance is on that. I'm just trying to get clarity because it's my first time doing this.
Sure, that's a good question. I think we try to listen to all the evidence put before us.
Okay.
So whether people object or not is something we would consider, but it's not determinative.
Okay, okay.
And Ms. Boland, is there do variances apply to this requirement or not?
In reading 7-6B on variances, you have the ability to issue departures from dimensional terms. Almost everything that's covered is a dimensional variance. This, in essence, is an administrative appeal, which is a determination of whether the Division of Building Inspection erred in the enforcement of the zoning ordinance. And when the zoning ordinance unequivocally states that an outside storage and working area in an I-2 zone shall be enclosed by a solid wall or fence not less than 6 feet, I suppose arguably you might be able to alter the height of that fence, but I don't think there is the authority there to simply waive an unequivocal requirement with respect to a specific use.
Thank you. See, any other questions for the applicant or staff? Any discussion?
My only comment would be that in an effort to try to help you, there's a word here that says shall, that puts us in a very, very ununique situation relative to making that adjustment. And I'm not concerned about the presidents, I'm concerned about the regulation more so. So I would have to stay in support of what the staff recommended based upon what was just read to me and comments by our colleague across the aisle.
All right, if there's no other discussion or questions, then I'll call for a vote, or call for a motion, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that A-2009-35 Garrett LLC appeals for an administrative review to determine that a 6-foot-tall solid fence as required by the zoning ordinance should not be required around an outdoor storage and work area in a heavy industrial I-2 zone on property located at 203-205 Lyle Industry Road, Council District 2, be upheld by the staff for the reasons introduced by the staff.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stout. Do I have a second?
I second Mr. Stout's motion to disapprove for the reasons recommended by the staff.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Moore. All those in favor of Mr. Stout's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Heights. Thank you for coming before us.
Thank you.
All right. All right, are there any items, well, I want to, again, state that my wife has set up I don't know if I want to call it a memorial, maybe a celebration of past member Joanne Bell, set for next Tuesday, June 30th at 5:30. Are there any other board items that need to be discussed? Okay. Are there any staff items that need to be discussed?
No, sir, not today. Thank you.
Okay, our next meeting will be on July 31st. And if there's no other business, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.